Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. The Lotus Sutra, Chapter 10, The Teacher of the Law. At that time, the world-honored one addressed the Bodhisattva Medicine King, and through him the 80,000 great men, saying, Medicine King, do you see in this great assembly the immeasurable number of heavenly beings, dragon kings, yakshas, gandharvas, asuras, garudas, kimnaras, mahoragas, human and non-human beings, as well as monks, nuns, laymen and laywomen, those who seek to become voice hearers, who seek to become pratyeka Buddhas, or who seek the Buddha way? Upon these various kinds of beings, who in the presence of the Buddha listen to one verse or one phrase of the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law, and for a moment think of it with joy, I will bestow on all of them a prophecy that they will attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. The Buddha said to Medicine King, if in addition, if after the thus come one has passed into extinction, there should be someone who listens to the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law, even one verse or one phrase, and for a moment thinks of it with joy, I will likewise bestow on him a prophecy that he will attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Again, if there are persons who embrace, read, recite, expound, and copy the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law, even only one verse, and look upon this sutra with the same reverence as they would the Buddha, presenting various offerings of flowers, incense, necklaces, powdered incense, paste incense, incense for burning, silken canopies, streamers and banners, clothing and music, and pressing their palms together in reverence, then, Medicine King, you should understand that such persons have already offered alms to 100,000 million Buddhas, and in the place of the Buddhas have fulfilled their great vow. And because they take pity on living beings, they have been born in this human world. Medicine King, if someone should ask what living beings will be able to attain Buddhahood in a latter-day existence, then you should show him that all these people in a latter-day existence are certain to attain Buddhahood. Why? Because if good men and good women embrace, read, recite, expound, and copy the Lotus Sutra, even one phrase of it, offer various kinds of alms to the sutra, flowers, incense, necklaces, powdered incense, paste incense, incense for burning, silken canopies, streamers and banners, clothing and music, and press their palms together in reverence, then these persons will be looked up to and honored by all the world. Alms will be offered to them, such as would be offered to the thus come one. You should understand that these persons are great bodhisattvas, who have succeeded in attaining Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Pitying living beings, they have vowed to be born among them, where they may broadly expound and make distinctions regarding the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law. How much more so is this true, then, of those who can embrace the entire sutra and offer various kinds of alms to it? Medicine King, you should understand that these persons voluntarily relinquish the reward due them for their pure deeds, and in the time after I have passed into extinction, because they pity living beings, they are born in this evil world, so they may broadly expound this sutra. If one of these good men or good women in the time after I have passed into extinction is able to secretly expound the Lotus Sutra to one person, even one phrase of it, then you should know that he or she is the envoy of the thus come one. He has been dispatched by the thus come one, and carries out the thus come one's work. And how much more so those who in the midst of the great assembly broadly expound the sutra for others. Medicine King, if there should be an evil person who, his mind destitute of goodness, should for the space of a kalpa appear in the presence of the Buddha and constantly curse and revile the Buddha, that person's offense would still be rather light. But if there were a person who spoke only one evil word to curse or defame the lay persons or monks or nuns who read the Lotus Sutra, then his offense would be very grave. Medicine King, these persons who read and recite the Lotus Sutra, you should understand that these persons adorn themselves with the adornments of the Buddha. They are borne upon the shoulders of the Thus Come One. Wherever they may go, one should greet them with bows, with palms pressed single-mindedly together, with reverence and alms, with respect and praise, flowers, incense, necklaces, powdered incense, paste incense, incense for burning, silken canopies, streamers and banners, clothing, delicacies, and the making of music. The finest alms that can be offered to a person should be offered to them. Heavenly treasures should be scattered over them. The treasure hoards of heaven should be given them as gifts. Why do I say this? Because these persons delight in expounding the law, and if one listens to them for even a moment, he will immediately attain the ultimate Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to state his meaning once more, spoke in verse form, saying, "If you wish to abide in the Buddha way and successfully gain the wisdom that comes of itself, you should be constantly diligent in offering alms to those who embrace the Lotus Sutra. If you have a wish to quickly obtain wisdom regarding all species of things, you should embrace this Lotus Sutra, and at the same time give alms to those who do so. If one is capable of embracing the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law, know that such a person is an envoy of the Buddha, who thinks with pity of living beings. Those who are capable of embracing the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law relinquish their claim to the Pure Land, and out of pity for living beings are born here. Know that persons such as these freely choose where they will be born, and choose to be born in this evil world, so they may broadly expound the unsurpassed law. You should offer heavenly flowers and incense, robes decked with heavenly treasures, the wonderful treasure hoards of heaven, as alms to those who preach the law. In the evil world following my extinction, if there are those who can embrace this sutra, you should press your palms together in reverence and offer alms to them, as you would to the world-honored one. The choicest delicacies, all that is sweet and tasty, along with various types of clothing, you should offer as alms to these Buddha sons, in hopes you may hear a moment of their preaching. If there are those in a later age who can accept and embrace this sutra, they are my envoys sent out among the people to perform the Thus Come One's work. If for the space of a kalpa, one should constantly harbor a mind destitute of good, with angry looks should revile the Buddha, he will be committing an offense of immeasurable gravity. But if toward those who read, recite, and embrace this Lotus Sutra, one should even for a moment direct evil words, his offense would be far greater. If there is someone who seeks the Buddha way, and during a certain kalpa presses palms together in my presence, and recites numberless verses of praise, because of these praises of the Buddha, he will gain immeasurable blessings. If one lauds and extols those who uphold this sutra, his good fortune will be even greater. For the space of 80 million kalpas, with the most wonderful shapes and sounds, with that which is pleasing to smell, taste, and touch, offer alms to the upholders of this sutra. If you have offered alms in this manner, and have heard the teachings for even a moment, then you will experience joy and good fortune, saying, I have gained great benefit. Medicine King, now I say this to you. I have preached various sutras, and among those sutras the lotus is foremost. At that time, the Buddha spoke once more to the Bodhisattva and Mahasattva Medicine King, saying, The sutras I have preached number immeasurable thousands, 10,000s, millions. Among the sutras I have preached, now preach, and will preach, this Lotus Sutra is the most difficult to believe, and the most difficult to understand. Medicine King, this sutra is the storehouse of the secret crux of the Buddhas. It must not be distributed or recklessly transmitted to others. It has been guarded by the Buddhas, the world-honored ones, and from times past until now has never been openly expounded. And since hatred and jealousy toward this sutra abound, even when the Thus Come One is in the world, how much more will this be so after his passing? Medicine King, you should know that after the Thus Come One has entered extinction, if there are those who can copy, uphold, read, and recite this sutra, offer alms to it, and expound it for others, then the Thus Come One will cover them with his robe, and they will also be protected and kept in mind by the Buddhas, who are now present in other regions. Such persons possess the power of great faith, the power of aspiration, the power of good roots. You should know that such persons lodge in the same place as the Thus Come One, and the Thus Come One pats them on the head with his hand. Medicine King, in any place whatsoever where this sutra is preached, where it is read, where it is recited, where it is copied, or where a roll of it exists, in all such places there should be erected towers made of the 7 kinds of gems, and they should be made very high and broad and well adorned. There is no need to enshrine the relics of the Buddha there. Why? Because in such towers the entire body of the Thus Come One is already present. All kinds of flowers, incense, necklaces, silken canopies, streamers, and banners, music and hymns should be offered as alms to these towers, and they should be accorded reverence, honor, and praise. If when people see these towers they bow in obeisance and offer alms, then you should know that such persons have all drawn near to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Medicine King, though there may be persons, those still living in the household, and those who have left it, who practice the way of the Bodhisattva, if they are not willing to see, hear, read, recite, copy, embrace, and offer alms to this Lotus Sutra, then you should know that such persons are not yet practicing the Bodhisattva way in a fitting manner. But if there are those who will listen to this sutra, then they are quite capable of practicing the Bodhisattva way in a fitting manner. If among the living beings who seek the Buddha way, there are those who see or hear this sutra, and who, having heard it, believe, understand, and embrace it, then you should know that these persons can draw near to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Medicine King, suppose there is a man who is parched with thirst and in need of water. On an upland plateau he begins digging a hole in search of water, but he sees that the soil is dry. He does not cease his efforts, however, and bit by bit sees the soil becoming damper until he has gradually worked his way into mud. Now he is determined in mind to go on, for he knows that he is bound to be nearing water. The way of the Bodhisattva is the same as this. As long as a person has not yet heard, not yet understood, and not yet been able to practice this Lotus Sutra, then you should know that that person is still far away from Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. But if the person is able to hear, understand, ponder, and practice the sutra, then you should know that he can draw near to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Why? Because all bodhisattvas who attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi in all cases do so through this sutra. This sutra opens the gate of expedient means and shows the form of true reality. The storehouse of the Lotus Sutra is hidden deep and far away where no person can reach it. But now the Buddha, teaching, converting, and leading to success the bodhisattvas, opens it for them. Medicine King, if there are bodhisattvas who on hearing this Lotus Sutra respond with surprise, doubt, and fear, then you should know that they are bodhisattvas who have only newly embarked on their course. And if there are voice hearers who on hearing this sutra respond with surprise, doubt, and fear, then you should know that they are persons of overbearing arrogance. Medicine King, if there are good men and good women who after the Thus Come One has entered extinction wish to expound this Lotus Sutra for the 4 kinds of believers, how should they expound it? These good men and good women should enter the thus come one's room, put on the thus come one's robe, sit in the thus come one's seat, and then, for the sake of the four kinds of believers, broadly expound this sutra. The thus come one's room is the state of mind that shows great pity and compassion toward all living beings. The thus come one's robe is the mind that is gentle and forbearing. The thus come one's seat is the emptiness of all phenomena. One should seat oneself comfortably therein, and after that, with a mind never lazy or remiss, should, for the sake of the bodhisattvas and the four kinds of believers, broadly expound this sutra. Medicine King, I will send persons conjured up by magic to other lands to gather together assemblies to listen to the law, and I will also send monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen conjured up by magic to listen to the preaching of the law. These persons conjured up by magic will listen to the law, believe and accept it, and abide by it without violation. If the preachers of the law are in an empty and silent place, I will at that time send large numbers of heavenly beings, dragons, spirits, Gandharvas, Asuras, and others to listen to their preaching of the law. Though I should be in another land, from time to time, I will make it possible for the preachers of the law to see my body. If they should forget a phrase of this sutra, I will appear and prompt them, so that they are able to recite the sutra text correctly and in full. At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to state his meaning, once more spoke in verse form, saying, If you wish to put aside all sloth and remissness, you must listen to this sutra. It is hard to get a chance to hear this sutra, and believing and accepting it too is hard. If a person is thirsty and wants water, he may dig a hole in the high plateau, but as long as he sees that the soil is dry, he knows that water is still far away. But bit by bit he sees the soil grow damp and muddy, and then he knows for certain he is nearing water. Medicine King, you should understand that people are like this. If they do not hear the Lotus Sutra, they will be far removed from the Buddha's wisdom. But if they hear this profound sutra, which defines the law of the voice-hearers, if they hear this king of the sutras, and afterward carefully ponder it, then you should know that such persons are close to the wisdom of the Buddha. If a person expounds this sutra, he should enter the thus come one's room, put on the thus come one's robe, sit in the thus come one's seat, confront the assembly without fear, and broadly expound it for them, making distinctions. Great pity and compassion are the room. Gentleness and patience are the robe. The emptiness of all phenomena is the seat. And from that position one should expound the law for them. If when a person expounds this sutra, there is someone who speaks ill and reviles him, or attacks him with swords and staves, tiles and stones, he should think of the Buddha, and for that reason be patient. In 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 lands, I will manifest my pure and durable body, and for immeasurable millions of kalpas will expound the law for living beings. If after I have entered extinction, there are those who can expound this sutra, I will send the four kinds of believers magically conjured monks and nuns, and men and women of pure faith, to offer alms to the teachers of the law. They will lead and guide living beings, assemble and cause them to listen to the law. If someone thinks to do evil to the preachers with swords and staves or with tiles and stones, I will dispatch persons magically conjured who will act to guard and protect them. If those who expound the law are alone in an empty and silent place, in that stillness where no human voice sounds, they read and recite this sutra. At that time I will manifest my pure and radiant body for them. If they forget a passage or a phrase, I will prompt them, so they will be thorough and effective. If persons endowed with these virtues should expound to the four kinds of believers and read and recite the sutra in an empty place, I will enable all of them to see my body. And if the expounders are in an empty and silent place, I will send heavenly beings, dragon kings, yakshas, spirits, and others, to be in assembly and listen to the law. Persons such as this will delight in expounding the law, making distinctions, and encountering no hindrance. Because the Buddhas guard and keep them in mind, they will be able to bring joy to the great assembly. If one stays close to the preachers of the law, he will speedily gain the Bodhisattva way. By following and learning from these teachers, he will see Buddhas as numerous as Ganges sands. May all merit and virtue from this activity adorn the Buddha's Pure Lands, repaying the 4 kinds of kindness above, and aiding those suffering in the paths below. May all of those who see and hear of this bring forth the resolve for enlightenment, and when this retribution body is over, be reborn together in ultimate bliss.